Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of eXhuming the X-Files here on the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel. Hit that like and subscribe to listen to us every Friday talk about the X-Files. Tonight, like I said, we have a bucket of chicken, Chaco chicken that is, and we are ready and about to feast on some people in an episode called Our Town. Any recollections of this one from your childhood?
No. And there was some pretty memorable shit I should have remembered. I don't know what I was doing.
Yeah, I don't
Was I
remember.
just not watching X-Files when I was a kid? I was every Friday.
I did not remember this one at all, so this was a fun one to revisit. So, all right, take us through what happens in the prologue of Our Town.
Starts out with an old guy and a young chick like rolling out to somewhere in the country to do the nasty. He makes some
He's like, you're
passing,
not like in high school anymore. I'm like,
but
oh.
that implies that they've been doing this since she was in high school. So I'm like,
Yeah.
is this guy a teacher or something like that? She gets out of the car because she doesn't want to be seen in town or at the motel with him, but she runs off into the woods. And then the dude almost has a fucking heart attack in the car. So he pulls out his pills like they do when for some reason what are those pills? They're that
I don't know what
cardiac
they're
patient.
called. Yeah, but I know what you're talking about, but I don't know what they're called.
They use them a lot in media to like stop heart attacks or for some reason. But I think once it's so bad that your body's shaking and your chest is bulging up that eating a couple of pills isn't gonna do the job, you know?
It's like Narcan for heart attack victims.
Yeah, okay. And then what is it? He goes chasing after this girl and she's all giggling and running away from him. And what I have here is he's led by pussy straight into some voodoo.
Yeah, voodoo.
Title screen.
I did not like this opening intro prologue. I did not like this. I thought this was like there's a dude in this weird, I don't know, like a slasher creepy mask that pops up and I guess presumably hacks this guy up or something. For whatever reason, I thought this opening was like the most boring, generic sort of thing possible. It's like, all right, it's just a dude chasing. It does the cliche, like he wants to like fuck her right there. He's got his blanket, and she's like, no, 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 you got to chase me. Oh, and I'm just like, oh god, what is this? And I did not like it. I was not in a good frame of mood after this prologue going into it. I thought it was going to be bad.
Damn.
Yeah, didn't like it.
It was kind of a hot girl. I'm an old guy, so.
To each their own. To each.
Okay, so yeah, this is the one. Scully cuts back to them getting the case. Scully immediately just calls it out for what it is. It's just somebody is wasting their time.
Yeah.
But Mulder's on board. It's like because it's a federal poultry inspector that has gone missing. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're gonna call in the FBI to go look for him. What is it? You find out in this town there's this poultry thing that it's not Tyson. It's called Chaco chicken. Chaco.
Chaco chicken.
They meet up with the sheriff to talk to him, and the sheriff knows enough about the local chicken inspector to know he was into chasing young tail and he was philanderer and stuff.
Like so when they eventually talk to his wife, and his wife's like, as soon as I turned 40, it was over for me, and he's just out there,
So they talk to the sheriff. The sheriff says he ran off with a piece of ass. They talk to the wife. The wife says he ran off with a young piece of ass, and that should have probably just been the fucking end of the episode. But no, we had to go to the chicken place, the Chaco Chicken Factory or whatever, the butcher shop. I don't know. What do you call a mass butchery like that? Processing facility?
Yeah, processing plant, I would say.
Okay. So they are retracing his steps because they think that maybe because he was about to give a bad, review or whatever of this processing
He wanted to get
facility.
him shut down. He was trying to get him shut down.
Yeah. And, that might have caused his disappearance, not the fact that everybody that knew him in any capacity just said he ran off with some ass. they go through this really clean facility. There's a lot of raw chicken everywhere, which is kind of gross, but it doesn't really get nasty until the very tail end of the tour. There's this meat grinder trough thing that they're just tossing all of the garbage parts into, and
Yeah.
Mulder's like, "What the fuck is that?" And he's like, "Yeah, when we need to process excess stuff, and you don't just throw all of that protein away. We feed it to or back to the chickens. It gets
Yeah.
cleaned, it gets cooked, but it's just this big trough of like bloody wet hair as you love.
It's
It looks like
gross. Ugh.
oatmeal is floating in it.
So
But the
gross.
girl, the young girl that this poultry guy was apparently screwing was on that line at the time, was working at the facility, and she started like freaking out, similar to like having the heart attack in the
Mhm.
pre-title screen.
Yeah. She's like
And event
hallucinating severed heads on the processing
yeah,
line and all kinds of weird shit.
and then she grabs the foreman that's giving Mulder the tour of the gut trough or whatever, the grinding machine that's full of goop. She has a blade to his throat, and the sheriff does not hesitate to blow this chick away. Just shoots her through the back of the head, and then she goes face first into this chicken trough goo. And like,
It's
that's a
nasty.
real person. That they didn't that if you look at it, she just decided to hold her breath and go face down all the way up to her ears into this goopy schlop. And I'm like, oh
Yeah.
fuck.
Protein sludge. It is gross.
It
And
is
they don't even try to hide the fact that it's all blood and nasty shit. And the camera hangs on her for quite a while
yeah.
because she's probably like, if I'm gonna do this, you better put this fucking
Yeah.
shot in the episode.
I'm holding my breath for 30 seconds and you guys are using every bit of that fucking footage. So they go to visit the legal guardian of the girl that had died in the ooh is what I wrote. And you find out it's the owner of Chaco Chicken. They want to
Yeah.
get authorization to do an autopsy of the girl to figure out, why did she just go nuts all of a sudden? And he
I love
has
that he
this.
just has a chicken coop in his backyard. He's just sitting out there feeding some chickens.
Well, he says, didn't he say that it grounds me, it centers me. He
Yeah.
has this really weird but completely forgettable speech about living and life and how he doesn't plan on dying anytime soon.
Yeah. He's
Only to
got
say, go on and cut my granddaughter up with your knives and such.
he's got like this really nice, like big tennis court about 5 feet away from this pretty tiny chicken coop where he's got like 100 chickens all shoved in there, and he's like just feeding seed to these poor chickens. Looked ridiculous. It looked like they're like, we have to have chickens back here. Let's just get the smallest like little cage we can and put as many in there as we need to. Looked weird. Didn't like it.
But they do an autopsy of the daughter. They find out that she has a rare brain hole disease that causes psychosis and other things. But also they find out that according to the records, that this young girl that looks, about 23, 24 years old is really 47 years old, and like that's impossible.
Yeah.
We need to go find her birth records so that we can verify that this person is actually 47 years old. But once they determine that she's 47, or at least think she is, they start thinking that maybe there's something hokey going on in this town.
Yeah, and then Mulder's like, "See, Scully? See? Something weird's going on." I forgot to mention Mr. Chaco. He calls chickens the perfect creatures. So, perfect creatures. Just I want to throw that out there. Chickens are perfect creatures according to
Now,
this guy.
okay, so like xenomorphs were the perfect
No,
predator,
the
that
perfect
line.
organism.
Yeah,
Chickens. Chickens are
chickens,
the perfect
chickens and
organism.
xenomorphs. Okay. So for some reason they have this. Oh god, they're on a road. They're driving. They almost have a car accident with a Chaco chicken truck that's just loaded down with chickens, and it just veers off and into this shallow creek. All these chickens die.
Feathers everywhere.
They find out that the guy that was driving the truck also had this super rare brain hole disease, and Scully is like, "This is impossible that two people could have it, so something is going on."
I like what she tells Mulder. She goes, Mulder, I just came up with a sick theory. And he gets super excited. He's like, pulls her aside. He's like, ooh, tell me more.
But they decide that they're going to drag the creek at that point because Mulder is staring at this chicken bar, like all this chicken blood, and they're like, "It's chicken runoff
Yeah, it's
from
just
the factory." So,
overflow.
so it's disgusting, and the
Yeah.
rightfully so. The sheriff's like, I'm not fucking dragging that. Like, my guys have better things to do with their time." And Mulder's like, "Well, I'll just get my guys." He's like, "Okay, okay." So they drag, or they, what is it? They close a spillway to bring the creek level way down and stop the current from really flowing, and then they drag it, and they end up finding all of these human bones.
Yeah.
And what's really weird about the bones is at the very ends of where the knobs of the ends of where the joints meet, they're all polished, smooth, and Scully is like, that could have been done by, what is it, water erosion? And
Yeah,
Mulder's
like
like,
it's
this
like we
creek isn't. Go
like
ahead.
you put a rock in a stream, right? And eventually it's going to become smooth.
Sure. And Mulder immediately dismisses it and says that creek isn't moving at all. Well, yeah, no shit. They turned off the fucking spillway in order to half the height of the creek so it wouldn't just keep flowing so they could drag the thing. It's just
It
such.
was literally flowing when he looked over
Yeah.
the thing and saw it.
So, oh, okay, Mulder, it's not that. But what it is, eventually they find out that it's like when you boil human bones, it does that for some, but just at the end. Like, oh, okay.
Voodoo.
Um, Voodoo. This episode's full of it. Let me see. We find out, like, similarly to the last episode, or no, wait, 2 episodes ago, that instead of it being big pharma causing an outbreak, it's big chicken causing another outbreak.
Yes.
Um,
What is it with X-Files where they put so many episodes that are essentially the same type of episode so close together? It's like spread it out a little bit. Like
they just assume that 1 week later we're just going to forget
forget
everything.
about it, I guess.
And we kind of did.
Yeah,
We
that's
didn't have
true.
these complaints.
That's true.
Um, so they, what is it? They talk about the Anasazi being cannibals
Yeah,
for
they
some
die out.
reason,
They die out because that was a theory that they all died out because they were cannibals. I
and
think
then
is that when when Scully walks in to that room with a bucket of chicken under her arm. And then Mulder's like, I think the good people of Chaco have been eating more than just chicken.
yeah,
And then she just like he walks out and she just looks at this bucket of chicken and you could just see she wanted to beast this stuff. Because what was the episode where she was just like beasting the barbecue? Like it's clear she likes to eat
oh
meat.
yeah, yeah.
So she had the whole bucket of chicken all to herself. And then she can't eat it anymore because of Mulder. She was sad. They
They
had to go find the birth records. I think that's where we're at. They went to go find the birth records of everyone in town.
Yep, and they find that the birth records have been torched so that we can't find out what really went on. In the background, like, the Chaco owner is getting confronted by people at the plant because the FBI are getting too close, and the Chaco guy just doesn't seem to care at all about what's going on with the psychosis and the brain holing. He's just like, we're just gonna keep on doing exactly what we're doing. We just need to get rid of these FBI people. We'll be all
Yeah.
right. So Mulder goes to, like, oh wait, they go meet this chicken inspector's wife because she calls and says she's afraid for her life, and
Yeah.
then Voodoo shows up with an axe.
Yep. Yep.
Um, Scully has to go rescue the wife while Mulder immediately is just going to go arrest the Chaco chicken guy. Goes to his house, sees that he was young-ish in 1944, but he's been around for a very, very long time, and he apparently has an extended lifetime. And for some reason, wants to break into this bookcase or something like that, some locked case that's in the middle of this
Yeah.
display of Papua New Guinea voodoo shit. And finally, he just breaks in. Like he asked the maid, do you have a key for this?" And she's like, "No." He just turns around and just smashes the lock right in front of her, opens it up, and it's all these voodoo heads. It's like shrunken heads, but they're not shrunken, but their mouths are tied up like they're going to. Oh, so
Yeah.
weird.
And I'm just thinking, like, well, I guess Mulder thought, I walked into this house, I looked at this guy's display of his time in 1944 with this weird tribe in the jungle, and there were some bones there. That's probable cause for me to break into this guy's locked cabinet. Apparently, that's where Mulder was at that point. Because even though, like, he was like, I'm going to go arrest the Chaco chicken guy. But for what? Like, it was just that woman was like, oh, she makes an allegation, but you can't just go walk in and arrest some guy just because some random person said something. You got to be able to confirm it. You have to have evidence that it actually happened. Not for Mulder.
No,
Probable cause at all times.
and especially when we have an episode with voodoo like going on in it, we just have to. You just have to accept that that's the way
Yep.
things are.
Yeah.
Um, I did put a note in here that lately Scully, every time she pulls out her gun, she gets her ass kicked anyway, and that's been happening more and more. She doesn't get to fire on
Oh yeah.
somebody. She just gets tossed into a wall, or tossed by a ghost into a wall, or Cowboy Chaco shows up and just lays her out with like a shovel or
Yeah.
something.
She's got to have CTE by now. I mean, this season she's been beat to shit by ghosts and voodoo and all sorts of stuff. Thrown in the walls, smacked in the head, thrown in trunks of cars. I mean, she's gone through some shit this season.
Yes. And so she ends up getting kidnapped by the owner of Chaco Chicken, and they go out to this big bonfire slash soup feed that the rest of the town is just at.
Feels like a clan rally.
Kinda, yeah.
It felt clannish to me with the fire and the burning of things, and I don't know if that's what they were going for, but it felt clannish.
But there was a lot of soup there.
Oh yeah, they're eating Doris. Because that's the thing. Mr. Chaco's like, you're not supposed to eat Doris. She's one of us. And they're just like, nope, we're eating her. So they chopped her up and put her into a soup of some sort, cooked it up, and they're all having a grand old time eating their friend Doris.
And then, Papa Chaco pulls out a gun. And he's like, "You're not doing that to me," but he doesn't have the balls to pull the trigger. Like he never there was never the genuine threat that he was going to pull the trigger on him. So they just basically take the gun away from him, cut his head off, and then strap Scully down to the same piece of equipment, and they're about to do the same thing to her. And then Mulder shows up and doesn't even hesitate, just puts a bullet in the voodoo
Yeah.
guy that's about to cut her head off. And everybody just starts running off into the woods with their soup bowls.
You don't want to waste Doris.
And that's kind of how it goes down. Like they find
Yep.
that these people have been eating humans, but they never did find the original chicken investigator guy. And then the
Yeah.
final scene is some dude is feeding chickens over at Chaco Chicken with the hearts trough that we were talking about at the beginning of the episode. And I even wrote it specifically for Matt. There's a little chunk of wet
Oh
hair
God.
that he digs out of the bowl before he
Ah!
feeds it to the
It's
chicken.
gross. It's so gross. Wet hair. Oh God. Um. Yeah. So I guess what's happening here is Papa Chaco went. His plane crashed in New Guinea. he met a tribe of cannibals, and I guess they taught him the secret: if you eat people, you can kind of be young forever. And so he started putting it in his chicken back in the U.S. And what's the main reason? Is it? I can't remember the name of the weird syndrome. It's got a weird name, but it's the thing that happens to you if you start eating human like brains and stuff, where it starts screwing you up. And I think there's so many people have been eating each other that they start hallucinating and getting the brain hole sort of syndrome, and everyone's dying because of it. But Papa Chaco keeps saying, "No, you guys are doing it wrong. If you just did this X, Y, and Z, we'd be fine." But I don't understand kind of like what they could have done to be fine. It seemed like
Oh,
this
I
was
don't know.
too far gone. I don't. It didn't make a lot of sense.
Well,
But I,
I mean, he had been doing it for a while and he seemed to be okay. It's just everybody else got infected by the you ever heard of a video game called DayZ?
I've heard of it. Yeah, I've never
It's a,
played
s-
it.
it's a survival horror game that you have to feed yourself throughout. And if you decide to kill another human being and then butcher that human being, cook up the meat and eat it, eventually over time you start your character like gets negative status effects, but one of them is as you're walking around you just start giggling uncontrollably. Like you could be in a firefight and your character just starts going they call it giggle chicken instead of human meat because eating humans eventually will drive you absolutely fucking insane.
Yeah, it's a real thing in some of them tribes. Like you can look it up. I can't remember the name of the actual thing, but there is something. If you just keep eating people, you start to go like nuts. Our Town. What are your thoughts on that one?
It was a fine episode for what it was. There was I I didn't hate it at all and compared to the previous voodoo episode type thing going on, it wasn't as hokey as the previous one was. There was some weird shit, there was some gross shit, but I don't know. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, this was kind of like slightly above middle of the pack for me. I enjoyed it. I thought the idea of like the cannibal stuff in this chicken factory was fun. We forgot to mention that the executioner in the mask who was about to kill Scully, that Mulder shoots, that was actually the sheriff. The sheriff they've been working with the entire episode. So when they take the mask off, they reveal it was the sheriff. So I like the reveal of that. Um, yeah, I mean, this is one of those episodes that it's perfectly fine and enjoyable. Like you could watch it and be satisfied that you got an entertaining time with the X Files. It's not going to be one of those episodes that blows your socks off and like, wow, super memorable or anything. But yeah, totally fine to watch this one. I'd recommend it. All right, some fun facts. Our Town was written by future executive producer Frank Spotnitz and directed by Rob Bowman. The episode was Spotnitz's first standalone episode for the show, and because of that, he decided to write about, quote, the most despicable and vile things he could imagine, unquote, which in this case was cannibalism occurring at a chicken processing plant. While researching the ancestral Puebloans for the second season finale, Spotnitz learned that archaeologists had discovered boiled human bones in Chaco Canyon, New Mexico, an element featured in the final version of the episode. Spotnitz also used Chaco as the name of the chicken plant in the episode. Spotnitz had trouble finding books about cannibalism, but he did glean enough information to name the characters in the episode after real notable cannibals. Of the results, Spotnitz said, quote, I was very pleased with the way it was executed, and I think it was a good mystery, unquote. He later wrote that, quote, I liked it more as time has gone on. And director Rob Bowman admitted to being exhausted both physically and mentally by the time this episode, the second to last of the season, was produced. The lack of interest later resulted in the episode taking extra time to finish. Bowman later recalled that the most difficult scene to film was the episode's climax, if only because of the ceremonial mask featured. He explained, quote, the mask scared the hell out of me only because I thought, boy, if I don't shoot this right, it's going to look really silly, unquote. Mulder and Scully observe that the ends of the victim's bones are smooth. The phenomenon is commonly referred to by archaeologists as pot polish, owing to the ends of bones being smoothed by their rubbing against the inside of a pot as they are stirred. Almost every guest character is named after a known cannibal. The name of the worker feeding the chickens at the end is C. Little, as noted by his name tag. This name refers to the classic children's folktale character Chicken Little, a young chicken who keeps warning his friends and neighbors that the sky is falling. And this is only the second time that Mulder has killed someone. The first time was at the climax of Young at Heart in season 1, I believe. So there you go, folks. Our Town. Pretty good episode. Definitely worth a watch. So we are at the end, people. Next Friday, we are finishing up season 2 of The X-Files. We're going to take a look at Anna Sawsey, written by Chris Carter. Can't wait for that. And then we're going to follow up the following week with our top 5 best of, worst of season 2. So hit that like and subscribe, and we will see you next Friday on eXhuming the X-Files.